got a little maintenance and repair to do on the old trusty Duramax here. If you take a peek down here at the fuel filter housing, that's wet. And if you watch my other videos, you know that fuel leaks are the Achilles heel of the Duramax. So let's go ahead and get that fuel filter off and rebuild the filter head. This would be good for 2001 to 2011 Duramax, I believe. All right, first thing I did is I stuffed a bunch of absorbent mats down on the frame rail there because we're going to leak fuel out when we go to take this thing off. Tools required, just a 12mm ratchet wrench, T20 Torx, and a flathead screwdriver. There's 2 bolts here, hold the fuel filter head on. You got 2 lines up underneath the boost pipe there, and then I'm just going to pull the fuel heater connector off, and then the ground for it is a T20 here, but you could also fumble around and unplug it down by the Fickum if you want and take the whole thing out as an assembly. Gonna give this thing a bath. Also, I plugged the fuel lines because there's nothing north of this between your injection pump, your injectors. Anything you screw up in this filter head is going straight into all that, so don't be that guy. I don't have a water sensor in here like came from the factory. I used this block off plug by, I think it's by Merchant Auto. I'm gonna drain this over the pan as well. So a smart move would also be to break the filter loose while it's in the truck. I did not do that, but luckily this wasn't that tight. All right, and there's the bottom of our filter head. So for this work, I bought the Merchant Auto rebuild kit. These things are dirt cheap. I think it was like 18 bucks, 20 bucks, something like that. And we will get into this. So if you don't know, on Duramax, here's your heater hookup here. So there's this little resistance heater in here that warms the fuel filter. So to prevent gelling on cold days. You've got a primer here, you use to prime the filter after like changing it or doing any other service, and then you've also got your bleeder screw here. This is a brass bleeder. I forget when I bought this, but I do recommend that because I think some of these trucks have plastic bleeders, which is probably just a pain in the butt. So with the T20, pull the primer apart. There's a spring under here, so just be a little cautious. It ain't gonna kill you. Oh! Clean out the inside of your primer cap, primer cup, whatever. Spring, okay. Your retention plate. This will be full of fuel, so drain this out. And then you can see 2 of your lip seals here. So these are just like hydraulic U-cup seals, right? That's what they give you in the rebuild kit here. It's literally just looks like a hydraulic seal. And these, the lips are in opposing directions. That way we seal from the outside and the inside. And then underneath this, where you seal this primer base to the body, is this O-ring here. And in my case, this I believe was the O-ring that was leaking. This thing's just in sad shape. All right, so here's the replacement for that. A couple other tidbits about this. So my truck has a lift pump like a lot of Duramaxes do now, but they didn't come with them from the factory. So my truck actually ran fine even though this was leaking, but in a normal application, any air leaks here will be devastating. You'll have all kinds of priming problems, cranking problems, everything else. So your bleeder screw has an O-ring on it as well, and that comes with the kit too. And then the other thing is, like, a lot of guys will just block this whole filter housing off, which is, I guess it's okay. I prefer not to. So you can, if you have a lift pump that's got, you know, water separator and a filter on it, you could just loop the lines on the truck side and throw this whole thing out. I don't want to do that just because I like having that redundant filter there, but some people will. Another thing to take notice of is this, we'll call it a nipple or a button if it doesn't offend anybody. You've got this little button here on the bottom, and this is like an anti-flowback valve for when you're servicing your filter. So if you take a look down into your filter, you've got this stem here, and this stem, when the filter is fully seated, depresses this and allows fuel to flow again. So if you ever change your filter, you can't get the thing to prime, make sure your filter's actually tight, make sure you didn't cross thread it and not get it all the way up, because you won't depress this button and you won't get any action out of it. So finally on the bottom here, we'll remove these T20 screws. So once you remove the screws on this plate, you'll press on your heater lead here, and this has an O-ring under it. And once this pops out, this whole thing will come apart then. Right? So you've got another O-ring here at the base of the fuel heater lead. That comes with the kit as well. And then we've got one more O-ring that is here. You can see mine is walloped. It's actually split open and whatever else is going on with this. So I don't know how this happened. Maybe in initial assembly, maybe someone's rebuilt this before, but this O-ring is rolled and destroyed. And that O-ring also comes with the kit here. Also, don't lose or forget your anti-drain back ball. Right? That's the ball that goes on this spring that fits inside this cup here and creates that anti-drain back effect. Sometimes when you pop that plate out and it shoots across the shop, this ball could go flying with it. Don't lose that. It's super important. All right, so the final thing to check is the check valves or plungers or whatever these are called, right? So you can see this one from the back. I'll push it open for you. How that valve comes out of there like that. There's one of them up here as well that does the same thing. And these are one-way valves, and this is what creates the pumping action of the fuel primer. So when you press down on that fuel primer, it blows this open, pushing fuel into the filter. And then when the spring returns it, it sucks this open, and that is your fuel inlet. So that pulls fuel from the tank. You push it with the primer, it pushes it down into the filter on the outside of the filter, and then up through the center of the filter, through this port here, it then goes to your engine, or actually, I guess it comes through the FICM or goes right to the CP3, whatever. But that's why your bleeder screw is on this side. So as you are refilling a virgin filter, you're pumping this. These valves are opening and closing to create that pumping. Fuel comes up through the center. The air traps in the top here, comes out the bleeder. It's a pretty nice little filter head. I know people hate these because they don't understand them and they don't fix them right, so they have trouble. But if you take your time and fix this right, I mean, these offer hundreds of thousands of miles of maintenance-free service. So anyway, really the steps to take with these, there's nothing to rebuild in here. You just want to pull them open and inspect the seats. Make sure there's no debris lodged in them or anything like that. Ultimately, the truck will still run if there's an issue with these. It's just the primer function will give you some trouble. So if that's leaking, it'll just pull fuel in just like it normally would anyway. So like anything common rail, you can never really be too clean. So I've blown everything out, every port. All that is all cleaned up, and then we'll be assembling this with gloves on and using diesel as our lubricant for our O-rings. So, first O-ring sets into the lip on the heater plate here, just like that. I'll take a little bit of fuel, get that all nice and wet. Your medium-sized, say your medium O-ring, is for your electrical pass-through here for your heater. Slide that into position. And now we can set this plate back in here. Do not forget your check ball in the process. Make sure that thing's clean. Sit that on. just slowly work this thing back down. Okay, that all looks good from the bottom side. Now flipping it over, bleeder screw is an easy one. You can bring a O-ring pick right through the groove in the bleeder screw there and peel that O-ring off. Okay, roll your new O-ring on, get it doused with some fuel. Now we rebuild the plastic primer cup. Same type deal here. You want to work these seals out without nicking the surface that they reside in. So these being soaked in diesel, they're pretty soft and ready to go. So you can just kind of tear them out of there. All right, those lip seals come out, and we want to clean this part really well as well. So now that this thing is spotless, we're going to put our seals in. Remember, our bottom seal facing downwards, our upper seal facing upwards, the cup part of it. You just got to roll it in there, then you can get it straightened out and set in the right direction once she's in. Right, bottom seal looks good. Top seal looks good. Get this lubed up. Okay, and then our final piece with this is our bottom O-ring. This is what was leaking on mine. This gets pressed or stretched over this bore here. And this O-ring seals your plastic plunger cup to the body of the filter head. Okay, that all fits nice. So then we drop our spring back in. Our plunger will get started on here, but we have to put our retainer back on. And then we need to work this plunger on carefully because you don't want to end up flipping one of these seals over. Now, the plunger does have a nice tapered edge on it, help you get it started, but just be careful putting that on. I'm going to douse everything in fuel so everything's nice and wet, ready to rip. We'll work this thing on here. All right, you'll know when you got it. You can kind of watch the seal to know it's not rolling. And then come down over the bottom one. The bottom one's easy because the seal's headed in the direction that you're going. Hold it all together as one piece, don't let it come back apart. And get a screw started in it. These are the wrong gloves for the job. Don't do that. Okay. Now I can take these off and really get to work. Now I'm kind of, as I'm tightening these, I'm watching that bottom plastic piece with that O-ring that seals the whole thing. to make sure that that's not rolled out of the bore or nothing crazy's going on with it. I'm just kind of turning, taking it a couple turns at a time. All right, guys, and just like that, you rebuilt your filter head on your Duramax. There's so many trucks sitting on the side of the road or sitting in people's yards that don't run because of this simple part. This took, I don't know, you could probably literally do this in 20 minutes. It took me a little longer because I'm filming everything, but it's not that simple, and it's not that complicated, and it's certainly not expensive. Under $20, you can fix a lot of drama with your Duramax by getting this stuff set up. So I'm actually going to reuse this fuel filter because it is not reached the mileage that I'd be changing it at yet. But if yours isn't, this is a great time to put a new filter in. Snug that up, snug up my water separator, lack thereof. Now, because I have a lift pump, the bleeding process is very easy. I'm not actually going to use the primer. I just turn the key on, crack the bleeder screw, and blast fuel everywhere under the engine bay. Let's let that bleed a little bit. God damn. We are looking really good and dry in here after letting this run for about an hour. I'd say we're fixed. All right, guys, that's another one down. Real easy one. Like I said, $20 for a rebuild kit, couple of hand tools, 20, 30 minutes of your time, and you just fixed a whole nest of problems with your Duramax. I can't emphasize enough how essential it is to have a air and liquid tight fuel system on these trucks. They're super reliable. I think they're super great trucks, but as soon as you've got a fuel leak, you're in for a bad time. Get them fixed, stay on the road. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching Spank Ranch Garage.